up diddling ding dong day. Ooh, do up diddling ding dong day. Ooh, do up diddling ding dong day. Ooh, do up diddling ding dong day.
Welcome back to another episode. Today we are back in the shed and we're doing a quarter chop on my GU Patrol behind me. If you don't know what a quarter chop is, we have to cut the back part of the car completely off to allow for this bar to actually sit up in it. So we need to basically turn this thing around, get the factory rear bumper off. We need to start measuring some stuff up, cutting into it. I've also painted the sliders up, so they're gonna go on today. And this rear bar has a spare tire swing away, which I'm very excited about because you can't really carry a spare 35. One of the best things about today is that we got a spare tire swing away, which means that we can carry a spare wheel on the back of the Patrol finally. Now I've been waiting for ages to get some bar work on this thing, so let's turn this thing around, take the rear bar off, and have a look at what we've got to do to make this bar fit. Proudly supported by Superior Engineering. Right, rear bar is gone and we are left with just the car. So this is the quarter section that we are chopping off. That's what's called a quarter chop. Now, what we're gonna be doing is coming down 140 mil from this body line here, and we'll angle grind straight across and then bring it across here. Now, I've got to be really careful because it is wires going up into this body cavity as well. But once that's cut, we need to then cut a steel plate, and we are going to be plating the bottom of that. We'll then seam seal, paint, all that sort of stuff, and we'll make it look really nice. Now back here, there is also this factory toe point that needs to come off as well, so we will have to grind that off. But let's have a quick look at the rear bar that we are putting on. Now this is the rear bar we are going here. It is a tubular style rear bar from Star Crew Industries. I absolutely love these bars, especially on the Series 4. I was gonna go a plate, but I think the tube just looks really nice on the back of these things. Kind of hard for you guys to see this on the ground, but it looks bloody awesome when they're on. So we'll have another look when it's on. But we did also go a single spare tire swing away, so I'm very excited to have a spare on this thing. I did actually get these delivered raw and painted them myself because I had to paint the sliders anyway. So I hung these up at work, got them both painted in a nice satin black. You can see the finish on it, it's really, really nice. But that's the rear bar, so let's get stuck into getting this quarter chop done so we can get it on the car. I'll probably start by cutting this big toe point off the back because it's gonna suck cutting that thing. Also, I don't know if some of you guys have noticed, but I've changed the shed around a bit more. I've put the toolbox back at the rear. It just seems a hell of a lot more room to work on the car. I used to have to bring the car in on a complete angle just to work on it. It's a bloody good start. Feels a hell of a lot better being in here, and I've got a heck of a lot more room. So anyway, let's get into cutting this rear toe point off, and then we can move on to the quarter chop, then we can get that rear bar on. I also went out and got some more PPE equipment because safety first in the shed, guys. Got myself a bit of a welding leather thing to stop the sparks. I look like I'm about to cook some meth, but I'm here to chop up Patrols, guys. Let's get into it. Righto guys, that is the chopping part of the quarter chop done. And as you can see, we've got a shitload more clearance now, so that is bloody mint. Now the next part is to actually patch the bottom of this hole now, because this goes all the way up into the car. And if you leave that open, dust, water, you know, anything is gonna get up there. Plus it's quite loud if you leave that open. So what we're gonna do is plate it off. Now I've got some cardboard here. So we're gonna do a CAD, cardboard aided design up here. And we're gonna whack that up, trace around it, and we're gonna cut that out. Once that is traced and we've got a template, we're gonna move that over to some zinc coated 0.8 mil steel, and then we will tack weld that in. Once that's tacked, we'll then go through and fully weld it, hitting it with a hammer as we go, making sure it's nice and tight to the body, and then we'll go through and seam seal and make sure this is watertight. We do also have some wires to worry about, so I'm not sure whether I just cut those and re-crimp them together just to get the wire back through the hole, but we've basically got to drill a hole for them too. It looks bloody insane chopped. You get so much more clearance to the wheel. You just about see the whole 35-inch tyre. You can actually see just over here, the last time I went full driving, you see we scraped the rear bar here. So that's why we're getting rid of this thing, is because it's so easy to damage and it just offers no protection to the car. And if you actually crumple this part of the car in, it's big money. You basically got to chop it into a ute or get someone to fully panel beat it and cut steel out. It's a big job. So if you can protect the panels while they're straight, good idea, good investment. And obviously if we go and smack anything, it's just gonna smack this rear tube here and it's not gonna cave in the side of our car. So I'm gonna quickly do a little template. Both sides are different, I believe. So you've got to template both sides and then we'll get them cut out, transfer them onto the steel, then we can actually start tack welding it in. I don't know if I said it before, but if anyone's wondering, we did 140 mil down and mark that, drew a straight edge across. On a TI, you do have to be pretty careful. There is some aircon lines sitting right here that you could easily nick with the grinder, so just be careful if you got that. Also, just try and be careful of the wires inside. And that's just about all the tips I've got. Also, another thing that we'll be doing is you can see this guard just tapers down here, this flare here. So what I'm gonna do is just cut that straight across there and straighten that cut up, because our rear bar is actually gonna sit straight here. For that, we will be painting this bit black so you can't see it, because a lot of people leave these in the color that their car is, and I think they look really good black. So I'm gonna paint it black. But anyway, I am getting ahead of myself, so let's get a template going so we can move on to getting this cut out of steel. Control is now all prepped up, plates are cut, I'm ready to weld these plates on. So the quarter chop is done, and Diesel is licking it for some reason. Have no idea what's going on here. Trust you, mate, to rock up when all the work is done. But anyway, the quarter chop is now done. You can see under there, nice and strong. Now, this steel, absolute mission to weld it because it's so thin. You gotta do little tack weld, so it takes a long time to do. Now, I didn't go crazy with the grinder because I wanna keep some of the strength in it. And as you can see under there, I cut a hole, where is it? There. I cut the hole to bring the wires through. So I did have to actually cut the wires, so I'm gonna have to crimp all them back together, resolder them back, but I'm glad that job is done. I always keep some of this stuff here in the shed. It's actually just from Bunnings, but it's masking tape that already has plastic on it. Makes for a really, really quick paint job. Now we just wait for that to dry, and then I'm going to spray the whole piece black. Right, that's painted, and while that's drying, I'm going to quickly rewire all the stuff that I cut off before. Wiring is now done. If you're wondering what I was actually wiring up, someone has actually gone to the trouble of putting globes in there. Normally on a GU Patrol, there's actually no globes in these rear lights. They only use the ones on the bumper. And that's because in Australia, when you have a spare tire on the back, you have to be able to see the other light from a certain angle, and this didn't qualify. So even though they could have just left them in, from the factory, the GUs did not have light in the rear there. Now I've also gone ahead and put a waterproof gland on this side, and on that side there's just a normal grommet. Now I wanted a gland on here because when I put a fridge and all that in the back, we're going to have to run power to the back and bring it up in. Anyway, it is looking really good, and it's time to get the rear bar on. Now I am by myself, but I reckon I can somehow manage to get it on. It looks like I am going to have to cut my exhaust off a little bit further back. This doesn't really faze me at all. So, time for the grinder. Just about had the rear bar on, and I realized that I haven't actually done the seam sealing on the back. I was getting way too ahead of myself. So I need to go through and seam seal the back, which is basically gonna seal this off because I couldn't actually weld some of the spots at the back, and any little pit holes that are left from the welder, the seam seal is gonna go through and fill. Now the sealer I have is Sikaflex fast curing automotive sealant. Now what we're gonna do is just cork this all over the seams and push it into any of the cracks and grooves. Now this is a fast cure, so once this stuff is on, then we can put the rear bar on. That's normally how you do that one. It's been a bloody long day, all right? Now the seam sealing is done, and now we can put this bloody bar on. At least we know how to do it now. Guys, the bar is on, and I'm gonna be the first to say, I friggin' love this bar. That actually just made the Patrol look so much friggin' better. You ready? And here we go, have a look at that. Look at that ground clearance we got now. Whereas if before, our bar was probably about down to here. Looks so much bloody better. Comes up nice and close to the body line. It's nice and even. It was a little bit of a struggle getting the bolts in, but they did all go in, which is great. But holy crap, I can't believe how much better that looks. All I'm looking at is the looks, but this thing off-road is actually gonna be so good to have. This is my first wagon. One thing I'm really scared about is denting that rear quarter because everything just hits it. But with this bar, we should be somewhat safe. The only thing that can really get us is if we're in a rut that's really, really deep and it comes up past that and it has a part protruding, but most of the time that's gonna get us out of trouble. Have a look at it. It looks so freaking good, but we still have the sliders and the spare tire carrier to chuck on, so the look is not finished yet. I'm gonna do the spare tire carrier first. Don't actually have a spare 35 with me, but I will be getting one. And out the back there, I have a 33, so I'll chuck the 33 on just so we can get a little bit of a look at it. But holy crap, love it. Bruh, this thing's sick. That's mad. This thing is turning out sick. How's that? We've got a spare tire. All you gotta do, flick the latch, swing her on open, and you're in the back. Now look, I know swingaways don't look that great, but the practicality of a swingaway is definitely there, and it honestly looks pretty tough if you ask me. It's getting late, but I'm gonna chuck these sliders on. I really want to see the sliders and the rear bar together, and then hopefully next week we're going to have the bull bar, but I'm not sure about that. I know you guys have already seen the sliders, but they tied in so friggin' nicely, and the satin black in the 2K looks amazing. Let's give you guys a look. It's getting bloody late, but might have to pull it out in the sun tomorrow. That is just one of the nicest things I've ever owned in my life. I also forgot to put the strut on, so now when you open this latch, basically that a little pull and she snaps open and then just calmly stops. How bloody good is that, guys? Honestly, swing away and sliders on the GU. I feel like an adult. I feel like I've matured up a little bit lately. Like, we're doing the swing away, we're carrying a spare. Like, we're actually carrying a spare out full driving. I've never done that. I feel like it's such a dad with my swing away. Now the bull bar I was hoping was gonna be here today, but kind of glad it wasn't, because this was enough to fill up this episode. Now, hopefully we're gonna get it next week, and then we can chuck the winch on. We can put the bull bar spotties on, and this thing will be aesthetically looking absolutely ready for the bush. Hopefully that's going to be here next week and we can get it all on and it's going to look sick. I just can't stop bloody looking at it. Look how much ground clearance we actually just gained. I think the rear bar honestly comes down to about here on a patrol. We probably just doubled our ground clearance at the back, and that is good. Now I'm going to pack up, go inside, get something to eat, because it is probably about 8 o'clock or something now. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, we've got these hats in stock now, and if you guys don't want such a deep one, I do have the shallower ones coming in a couple of weeks. Honestly, I think I'm a little bit delirious. I'm going to stop talking and go inside. Thanks all for watching. Drop a comment, let me know what you think, drop a like. Catch you guys on the next episode. Goodbye.
Up to the ding ding dong day.